what's going on, everybody? Steve here, back with another episode of the E2A Flippers podcast. And today, we're actually out in the woods. We're taking a little bit of a walk. And I wanted to make this emergency podcast. It's going to be a short podcast, but it's going to be very important. I wanted to make this because I've been getting much more, messages from people, many more messages from people who are complaining about getting IP complaints, complaining about getting hit with an Amazon Section 3 complaint. So Amazon has terms of service, and there's a Section 3 that mentions a bunch of different things that you can't do. Also in Section 3, it mentions they could essentially terminate you for no reason, but there's a lot more people. And when I say a lot, don't think it's like, hundreds. I've probably heard from maybe 5 or 6 people, and I think it's happening a bit more, some of these issues, because it is Q4 at the time of this recording. This podcast probably won't come out for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but we're in Q4 right now at the time of this recording. And I've noticed one common theme amongst the folks who are doing eBay to Amazon, and this even applies for thrifting, garage sales. This applies to really any sourcing strategy where you don't have invoices, okay? I'm gonna share something. Be very, very careful selling super popular products. Now, in one of our previous podcast episodes, we talked about, how to prevent IP complaints and some of the warning signs, for example, with DVDs, certain ranks to avoid, certain products where there's multiple sellers selling like multiple quantity or multiple sold. We've talked about, making sure there's plenty of sellers on the listing and that there's no big drop-offs in the Keepa chart. But one overall simple principle I want to share: if you're doing eBay to Amazon flips or thrifting, or you're sourcing with any strategy with no invoices, you have to understand the more popular a product is, the faster selling it is, the more current it is. For example, there was a guy who just reached out to me and said he got hit with an IP complaint and a Section 3 complaint. And he shared with me the DVD that he was selling that he had an issue with, and he sold it a whole bunch of times with no issues. But then he got hit with an IP, I think it was like a counterfeit without a test buy, and then he got hit with the Amazon Section 3. They froze his account. It was like an 8,000 ranked DVD. And he was also selling some makeup, which was really fast selling as well, okay? You gotta be careful. Even if the Keepa chart looks good, even if you don't see any drop-offs and maybe there's, 8, 9, 10 sellers on the listing, you have, in my opinion, an 80 to a 90% increased chance of getting IPs, Section 3s, having Amazon come after you, having the brands file complaints, counterfeits, with newer, more current, popular, faster selling products. If you're gonna sell a brand or an item, especially, here's a tip, and maybe you've never sold the brand before, if IP Alert, which is a Chrome extension that I use to help prevent IP complaints, you can check that out at rakeandprofit.com/IP Alert. Use the code RAKEN30, you'll save $30 on that. But I use that and it'll warn me of a couple issues. Number one, generic listings. You don't want to list on generic listings anymore. Amazon's been hitting people with Section 3s and suspending and freezing accounts because of that. That essentially just means it's a listing that essentially goes around the brand. Amazon doesn't like that. IP Alert will pop up with generic listing, but also IP Alert will warn you, hey, this brand is known to file IP complaints. Don't sell brands that have that warning, because at one point or another, it was registered in the IP Alert database that this is a brand that can cause issues. Now, I've said before, IP Alert's not perfect. There are opportunities that you will miss. There are some, brands and items where IP Alert hits and says, don't sell it. It's known to file IP complaints to brand, and I've sold it a million times. But you have to understand you're increasing your risk by about 90%. The same with DVDs under 10,000, super fast selling health and beauty products and supplements. When I'm doing eBay to Amazon, I'm honestly trying to stay under the radar. I would prefer to sell stuff that isn't the hottest selling stuff, that's maybe discontinued or vintage or a little bit slower selling. Maybe it only sells 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times, versus some of the products and electronics and DVDs that sell 100, 200, 500, 1,000. Those are the products that are gonna be the highest targeted products, where brands might come after you, IP complaints, counterfeits, competitors trying to take you out, because there's a lot of money to be made. Now, again, it's somewhat contradicting, because it's like, Steve, I'm in this because I want to make a lot of money. The good news is with eBay to Amazon flips, you can flip thousands of products. And, you know, just the other day, again, there was a friend of mine, a student as well, friend/student, who we got in a coaching call. They got hit with an IP complaint from a brand that they've been selling a ton of. And the funny thing was, it wasn't actually even a fast selling product. It was kind of slow selling, this specific ASIN, but other ASINs were fast selling, and they got hit with the IP complaint. They were asking me, should I still sell this? Is it risky? And I was like, listen, once you get an IP complaint for a specific ASIN within the brand, I'd probably leave it alone, to be completely honest. So that's that. But even though it was a slow selling product, the ASIN they got hit with, IP Alert was warning them not to purchase it, that the brand was known to file IP complaints. So just wanted to share some lessons. The more popular, the faster selling the product is, the newer, the more current. If you look at the Keepa chart and it's only been around for 3, 4, 500 days or less versus like a product that's been around for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, you just have a higher chance the newer, more current, more popular the item is. There's no perfect way to prevent IP complaints and counterfeits. And there could be a day where I'm like, listen, I got kicked off and I'll have to find a way to get another account or partner with someone. But the goal of E2A is to mitigate risk. You thrift, garage sales, sell your stuff from around the house, mitigate risk. Be paranoid, be super duper paranoid about getting IP complaints and counterfeits. Once you see that little itty bitty sign, IP Alert pops up and you're not familiar with the brand, or you see a drop off, even if it's from 10 sellers down to 4, and you don't see the rank dipping and you're like, wow, why are the sellers dropping off? I mean, they could be getting gated. Be paranoid, be super duper paranoid. I know it's not the healthiest thing, but we don't have invoices, guys. So you have to be careful. And it's a gray area. You know, Amazon doesn't necessarily like you selling products without legitimate invoices. So if you're gonna play in the game, be very paranoid and be careful, okay? So just want to share these thoughts. Appreciate you guys. Much love. Thank you so much, everybody, for all the folks who have joined the eBay to Amazon Masterclass over at rakeandprofit.com/E2A Masterclass. Thank you. It's been amazing. We've had a bunch of new students coming in. Thank you for everyone listening to the podcast, watching on YouTube. I'm just so grateful to be able to help and serve you guys. And we just hit our first $100,000 month, which is exciting. I put a video on the YouTube channel a couple weeks back. You can check that out. Did over $100,000 in the month of November, which was incredible. And yeah, appreciate you guys. Much love. Smash that like button if you're on YouTube. Leave a positive review on iTunes. Thanks, everyone.